The storyline evolves in Columbus, Ohio, a city grappling with a growing issue of gang violence and an alarming surge in homicides. Governor John Meserve asserts with pride that crime rates have significantly decreased, bringing a semblance of tranquility to the troubled urban landscape. Nonetheless, skepticism abounds, and protests erupt in response to a contentious pipeline project proposal. In a surprising turn, Governor Meserve announces an impartial environmental evaluation, kindling excitement within the Hill family. For Abby Hill and her kin, this development is particularly significant, as her mother, Vivian Hill, is deeply immersed in the Environmental Protection Agency's audit. Tragedy strikes when Vivian heads to the airport to collect her husband Stanley Hill, who is returning from a job interview. In the airport parking lot, an unknown individual approaches them, seeking financial assistance. What begins as an innocent encounter takes a sinister turn, escalating into a brutal attack on Stanley and a fatal stabbing of Vivian by an assailant bearing a distinctive fly tattoo. This heinous incident leaves Stanley in a state of shock and devastation. Driven by a relentless desire for justice, he reports the perpetrators to Detectives Gibson and Walker. However, their probing questions about his relationship with Vivian only compound Stanley's grief, leaving him frustrated and bewildered. Overwhelmed by the profound loss, Stanley makes a dramatic decision to escape the circumstances surrounding Vivian's funeral, drawing the nation's attention. Governor Meserve offers his condolences and pledges support in the quest for justice. The following day, at the detective's behest, Stanley returns to the police station to identify the individuals responsible for the horrifying ordeal. Having successfully identified the true culprit, Stanley faces a disheartening setback when the detectives opt to release the attacker due to a lack of concrete evidence, leaving him feeling utterly powerless. In his despair, he turns to his daughter, Abby, and confides in her about the killer's release. Consumed by rage at the assailant's freedom, Stanley stumbles upon a concealed black envelope containing damning artifacts from his past. Fueled by anger and an unwavering thirst for justice, he reaches out to his former comrade, Dennis, for assistance. Dennis, fearing the potential consequences of seeking revenge, warns Stanley against this path. Undeterred by the cautionary words, Stanley joins forces with Dennis, and together, they embark on a mission to track down the culprits. Their initial lead guides them to a club where Stanley identifies Nathan, one of the attackers, in the act of handing over Vivian's stolen purse to his girlfriend. This encounter sparks a tense confrontation, during which Stanley manages to subdue Nathan, who hints at a hidden motive behind Vivian's tragic murder. While grappling with their next steps, an unexpected twist unfolds. A gang member covertly records the disposal of Nathan's body and tips off the infamous crime lord Lemmy K about the situation. In response, Lemmy K orders Charlie Fly, the man who killed Vivian, to eliminate both Stanley and Dennis. Faced with this imminent threat, Dennis leads Stanley to a concealed basement, replete with training equipment and an arsenal of weapons from their past, preparing for the impending danger. Using a broken phone discovered on Nathan, Dennis hacks into it, uncovering a contact associated with the zombie tattoo shop. This connection seems pivotal in unraveling the truth behind the tragic incident, bringing them closer to understanding the motives behind the murder. As the narrative unfolds, Lemmy K, the formidable crime lord, takes action. He contacts Detectives Gibson and Walker, demanding that they identify the culprits responsible for the deaths of his gang members. A startling revelation emerges, exposing the corrupt detectives' involvement in a sinister alliance with Lemmy K. They have struck a deal to shield Lemmy K's henchmen from prosecution in exchange for their silence regarding a damning video that could expose Governor Meserve's son. This video is nothing short of shocking, capturing the governor's son engaging in a heinous crime involving the murder of his girlfriend and the distribution of dangerous crystal drugs. Lemmy K exploits this incriminating footage as leverage, threatening to release it to the public if the detectives fail to apprehend those responsible. During the chaos of this investigation, Detective Gibson meets with Governor Meserve and reveals Lemmy K's involvement in the case. The governor, now aware of the potential scandal and the gravity of the situation, implores the detective to unearth the truth behind the recent crimes. Determined to prevent the release of the damaging video, the governor faces a mystery shrouding the identity and motives of the perpetrators, intensifying the urgency of the investigation. Meanwhile, during the ongoing inquiry, Stanley devises a plan to confront Lars, who works at the zombie tattoo shop, only to discover a different employee when he arrives there. Sensing impending trouble, Dennis rushes to the shop upon hearing an alarm, only to confront Charlie and his gang. In a fiery shootout with bullets flying, Dennis displays his skills, eventually defeating the gang, though Charlie manages to elude capture. Meanwhile, Stanley, while getting an I Am Wrath tattoo on his back, confronts Lars about Charlie, sparking a tense confrontation. Lars, unwilling to reveal Charlie's whereabouts, pushes Stanley to the brink of rage. In a moment of fury, Stanley ends Lars's life by slitting his throat. To further complicate matters, Stanley seizes Lars's drug shipment. With Dennis's assistance, they discreetly dispose of the bodies. Consumed by deep guilt and grief over his past as a gangster and the tragic loss of Vivian, Stanley seeks solace in a church. There, he unburdens his soul to a priest, confessing his sins and earnestly seeking forgiveness. During the ongoing chaos, Abby arrives at Stanley's home with the intent of gathering her mother's belongings. To her astonishment, Abby discovers an array of guns and gang-related paraphernalia scattered throughout the premises. Before they can escape, Charlie and his henchmen launch a sudden ambush. Gunfire erupts. As they unleash bullets at Abby's car, Stanley arrives just in time to clarify the situation, but Abby is understandably furious with him. Over at the governor's mansion, Meserve becomes aware of further casualties within Lemmy K's gang and recognizes the need for professional help in apprehending those responsible. As the situation continues to escalate, the governor takes action to address the growing crisis. Meanwhile, Lemmy K seethes with anger upon learning that his valuable drug shipment has been stolen. He delivers a stern warning to Charlie, who finds himself in hot water. Unbeknownst to Charlie, Stanley, hidden in the basement of a barber shop, manages to obtain Charlie's contact information from Lars's phone. In a clever move, he tricks Charlie into heading to a Korean club, where both Stanley and Dennis are prepared to confront him. In the tense atmosphere of the VIP room at the Korean club, Charlie's paranoia reaches its zenith. Chaos ensues as Stanley corners Charlie, demanding answers. In a moment of panic, Charlie inadvertently discloses that Lemmy K was the mastermind behind the tragic event. Fueled by anger and unwavering determination, Stanley shoots Charlie, putting an end to his life. Armed men close in on Stanley and Dennis, but with remarkable teamwork, they narrowly manage to escape capture. Back in their basement hideout, Dennis reveals a shocking truth about the formidable crime lord, Lemmy K. Fearing for his family's safety, Stanley decides to relocate them to a hotel. Upon returning home, Stanley makes a startling discovery. A report suggests that Vivian was coerced by Governor Meserve to conceal the risks of water contamination associated with the pipeline project. Listening to a voicemail left by Vivian further confirms his suspicions that her murder was orchestrated to bury the findings of her environmental review. As the pieces of this intricate puzzle fall into place, Stanley is more determined than ever to uncover the truth and seek justice for his wife. In a sudden and menacing assault, Lemmy K and his gang target Abby and her family. Under immense pressure, Abby manages to transmit a coded message to Stanley, alerting him to the dire situation. Without hesitation, he contacts Dennis for crucial backup. Upon arriving at the scene, Stanley and Dennis confront Lemmy K and his menacing crew, leading to a tense standoff. Abby is captured, and in the heat of the conflict, Dennis is shot, yet his resilience prevails as he recovers and successfully takes down Lemmy K's assailant. Stanley engages in a fierce battle with Lemmy K, resolute in his determination to extract information. The fate of Vivian's case and the safety of Abby and her family hang in the balance as they press forward in their mission to hold those responsible accountable. However, just as Lemmy K is on the brink of revealing the true perpetrator, corrupt Detective Gibson takes ruthless action, gunning him down in an attempt to conceal the truth. Undaunted by the pervasive corruption surrounding him, Stanley remains unwavering in his quest and refuses to compromise his integrity. A tense standoff unfolds as Gibson's backup detective, Walker, attempts to make a move, but is swiftly incapacitated by Dennis. Gibson's efforts to negotiate with Stanley prove fruitless. Stanley restrains Gibson by handcuffing him to the steering wheel of his car, while Walker remains confined in the trunk. He forces Gibson to drive him to Governor Meserve's mansion, where a sinister web of deception gradually unravels, setting the stage for a climactic confrontation. During the tense journey, Gibson reveals the shocking truth about the governor's involvement in criminal activities, shedding light on why Lemmy K and his associates have remained beyond the law's reach. The revelations weigh heavily on Stanley as he grapples with the extent of corruption. Upon reaching the mansion, Gibson pleads with Stanley to release him for a conversation with the governor. Instead, Stanley incapacitates Gibson with a powerful blow to the head. Stanley takes measures to neutralize the guards and sets a trap for Gibson, rigging the car to explode and enabling Walker's narrow escape from the trunk. With the obstacles removed, Stanley faces minimal resistance as he dispatches the remaining security personnel. With unwavering determination, Stanley storms into the mansion, ready to confront Governor Meserve and uncover the full extent of the conspiracy. A fierce battle unfolds within the mansion, with Meserve initially gaining the upper hand and holding a shotgun to Stanley's head. However, in a shocking moment of revelation, Meserve confesses to the murder of Stanley's wife. He explains that he killed her because she refused to participate in his corrupt schemes. Overwhelmed by a mix of grief and rage, Stanley turns the tables, fatally stabbing Meserve, bringing a dramatic end to their confrontation. News of the break-in at the governor's residence quickly spreads, attracting a swarm of police officers who surround the mansion. Despite narrowly surviving thanks to a bulletproof vest provided by Dennis, Stanley is taken into police custody. Fearing that her father may disappear forever, Abby sneaks into his hospital room for a heartfelt farewell hug, marking a bittersweet conclusion to this gripping and tumultuous series of events. Later that night, 2 police officers are stationed outside Stanley's hospital room, one of them being Walker, who has been demoted to patrol duty. Nevertheless, he conceals malicious intentions as he enters Stanley's room with the sinister aim of eliminating him. In a shocking twist, Abby had discreetly left a concealed firearm, disguised as a hug, enabling Stanley to defend himself. In this unforeseen turn of events, Dennis, cleverly disguised as a doctor, plays a pivotal role in orchestrating their audacious escape. Stanley and Dennis manage to slip away, seeking refuge in Sao Paulo, Brazil, to evade the corrupt authorities. Sometime later, Abby receives a postcard from her father, assuring her of his safety and expressing gratitude for her invaluable assistance. With his quest for justice and vengeance fulfilled, Stanley ultimately finds the peace and closure he so rightfully deserves. The chapter closes here,